thcrap code caves were a mistake, but in order to find out why they were a mistake, we first have to talk about how they work. So I have just made a simple file that has bin hacks and code caves in it. It's not a real file belonging to a real patch, just a little demonstration. So in the file where you have your bin hacks, you have your bin hacks, but let's say you need more code than you can fit in with just bin hacks. Then you say above bin hacks code caves : and then you can make and then you can specify here the name of a code cave, and then you can put all of your code in here. Okay? So then in a bin hack, you can then say e8 code cave : demo cave. And what that does is at address 124, it will put in the instruction call, and it will call this demo cave. Okay? So this seems alright, but then there was a problem that I never actually thought about. And that problem is, well, where are you gonna put your data? And here's the deal. Code caves by default are allocated to only be readable and executable. And here's why. So let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that in the memory of a program, you have an area of memory that you can read from, write to, but also execute code from. Now let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that you have a bug in that program that allows you to write to any memory address. Now let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that you also have a bug with which you can jump to any memory address. Well, you can then just write code into the area in memory that's writable and executable, and then jump to the area in memory that's writable and executable, and you have got yourself a nice arbitrary code execution bug without needing things like bin hacks. So I obviously wanted to avoid that, but people wanted to be able to store data in the code caves. So here's what I did. Above or below your code caves, you could do following. You create a code cave called protection, and in here you would specify a memory protection constant. And here's the deal. This memory protection will apply to all code caves, the entire area of memory where all the code caves are stored. And with that, I have basically introduced the problem that I have wanted to avoid. I wanted to avoid a scenario where you have a page in memory that's readable, writable, and executable. But because this little protection keyword will make all code caves have that memory protection, most people are going to put the memory protection constant for read, write, and execute in it. And so now all the code caves are readable, writable, and executable, which I wanted to avoid. But it gets even worse. So let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that some patch that's above your patch in the patch stack specifies a memory protection constant that doesn't allow writing to the code caves. So then all code cave memory is only readable and executable, but not writable. But your patch depends on it being writable. And the problem that this creates is that whenever the code of your patch tries to run, it will crash the game. So now we have a problem where code caves cause security issues and they might crash your game. And the best I can do in order to somehow reduce the damage is to make it so that this protection keyword is entirely ignored, and to always set all codecave memory to be readable, writable, and executable. That way, some patch that's higher than yours in the patch stack won't cause your patch to crash the game. But it will keep around security issues. So we can discuss ideas on a codecave system that's more secure than this, but also allows you to have codecave memory that you can store your data in. But the thing is, even if we introduce that kind of thing, we're gonna have to keep around this old codecave system anyways, because if we don't, then it's just gonna break all the patches that already rely on it. And I don't want that. Preferably, I want backwards compatibility forever, because I don't want to ever break anything that has been made before and then either provide my own versions of the patches that rely on the way things used to work, or make all the patch developers adapt to this new method. But let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that patch level plugins were a bad idea from the very, very beginning. See, thcrap doesn't support patch level plugins, that is, DLLs that can be shipped with a patch and that get loaded when the patch gets initialized, because we think that if patch level plugins are a thing, that we would also need code signature support, because having patch level plugins would be too scary without code signature support. But the thing is, you were already able to get all of the functionality from some hypothetical DLL by putting all of the code from the DLL into the game using bin hacks. Or now that you have code caves, you can put the entirety of a DLL into a code cave and then use that in order to get the functionality of an entire DLL without having official support for patch level plugins. And you were always able to do bin hack trickery in order to load in DLLs, even if thcrap doesn't have any official feature for loading in DLLs.